What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And this one, I'm going to talk about what's going on with Tesla stock and many tickers out there, break down what's happening to the markets and what the news is saying about Tesla. But before I break anything down about all this information, let me just mention a couple of things. I'm personally not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And don't forget about the Weeble link. The offer ends very soon. If you deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends in 2 weeks. Check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. All right, so looking at Tesla right now, this thing is currently trying to test this resistance around this 260 area. And for the time being, we're going to be watching to see how it reacts to it. Now, bringing back the extended hours, I just want to mention that Tesla's in a pretty decent place right now. It formed a nice inverse head and shoulders pattern right over here and is trying to get this break to the upside. However, I just want to mention that we have to try to break 260 first, then 262, try to get back to this high right now. And Tesla is lagging a little bit behind compared to the market because we had quite a bit of nuanced news that came out. Some things were quite decent, as the Tesla Cybertruck charging outside of the Gigafactory in Texas is showing some very interesting details, and they're really talking about how looking at the bed and its overall like look of it, it looks very interesting. They're talking about how the different features of it make it look very, very lucrative, and other things about it look very, very awesome in many people's opinions. They're also talking about how it's being charged by these solar panels right here, which is super, super cool. And they were just talking about this. I mean, I didn't really see anything else that was too crazy. It has an interesting looking bed right here, and they were comparing it to a Ford F-150 in the news. Besides that, another big piece of news that came out was that researchers hacked Tesla's infotainment system, and they ended up getting some paid upgrades for free. This is not necessarily good news for Tesla because, once again, it's leading many of these different news networks to say that Teslas are not very secure cars. And once again, they managed to retrieve private user data, and it just shows that Tesla has to work on things like this. Now, in my opinion, this is once again important news that Tesla has to look into. Tesla has to make very, very important cybersecurity improvements to stop things like this from happening and stop hackers, because this is making so many headlines and this is just not the best of news. And I did see some more news about the lawsuit I was talking about in the morning. This is still making a couple of headlines. It's not as big as what it was like yesterday. So we will see what happens with this moving forward. This just shows that the lawsuit has been filed because many individuals out there are believing that Tesla is exaggerating about their ranges. So like I said before, a lot of the news wasn't that great for Tesla. It's part of why Tesla's performing the way it is. And once again, I can't really predict every single piece of news, but I did tell you guys that Tesla would get a nice pop in the morning. We did manage to get very close to 265. We came down, and if we broke below like this 260 area, our next critical support would be a lot closer to 257.74, and then below that we had like 255. We came just in the middle of that, around like 256.5. And now, yes, we're forming a nice structure with this potential inverse head and shoulders, but in order for this to really break out, we have to hold above 260, and Tesla's struggling to do so far. But things could change later on, so let's hope Tesla tries to break 260. For now, watch these critical levels very carefully. If it breaks 260 and holds above it very, very nicely, we could see Tesla go for 262.5, and then once again, 264.77. But we need to see it happen first in order for this to become a reality. Now, one thing that's good about the market and one thing that can help Tesla would be this right here. If you look at SPY, I mentioned to you guys that SPY could see a breakout today. Just looking at the current technicals and the inverse head and shoulder structure, this wasn't as impacted by negative news as Tesla was, because most of the news that came out was quite positive for the markets. We had this inverse head and shoulders just playing out quite nicely, and then if you exclude the extended hours, right, you could also argue that there's this unfilled gap right here, which SPY could be heading towards in the future. But we do have this gap resistance around this 453 zone. So we're going to be watching this very carefully to see how it ends up reacting to it. But for now, it's holding up very, very nicely. It's trying to get that breakout, and it's looking more bullish, right? It's just looking bullish. It got a bullish wedge that got this breakout, looking very nice. Testing our 200 EMA on the 30 minutes time frame looks quite nice for SPY. So we're going to be watching how it reacts to this 200. If it breaks above this, then you're going to be watching the gap resistance in the 453.5 area. If it does get a clean break above 452.8 or so. So we're just going to have to wait and see. But I just want to mention it looks more bullish. It's holding up very nicely. And it's going to be testing this 200 EMA. Very nice move by SPY. Same thing with the triple Q, testing 378, the move we called out in the morning. When it came to the market and getting an explosive move, we got it on SPY and the QQQ and a couple of tickers out there. Like Nvda is holding up nicely too. We got the nice move for most of them. It's just that Tesla ended up lagging behind so far. It really wants to break out. It really, really wants to. It's trying to hold 260 right now, but once again, the news caused it to lag behind just a little bit with all this talk about the lawsuit and the hackers getting into Tesla's infotainment system. So we're just going to be watching it as well. So on this 378 level, if QQQ breaks this, we could get a lot closer to about 380. That's very possible for it. But it has to hold above this resistance above our 200 EMA. For now, it's just barely testing it, so be very, very patient, and we will see if we can continue to break out. Nvda hitting 455 quite nicely. Don't forget this imbalance happens to be up here around this like 458 area, so we're getting very close to it, and we will see if this manages to hold up. And from the very bullish structure, I talked about this yesterday, it was looking bullish from a technical standpoint, and the technicals are taking off so far. Once again, very, very nice stuff from Nvidia. And then Amazon's up like crazy. It's up like 11% now, testing 143. Very beautiful. And I told you guys about 145 on Amazon is very possible. Still looks bullish, continuing to break out. Watch this thing go. It's already up 11%. It has a little bit more potential to try to push up higher. And I think it's just going to hold these levels for the majority of the day. Finally, once again, guys, for Tesla, it's currently at 260. Trying to hold above it, doing quite nice. And the inverse head and shoulder structure too. SPY is trying to break out, and let's see if Tesla can continue to follow. Yes, Tesla is following the market. It's lagging behind a little bit because of the negative news, but it could still try to continue pushing. Let's see Tesla try to hold this 260 area now, and let's see if it could get above our 200 EMA on the 30 minutes time frame. So people were asking, what about the 4-hour time frame? What about the 50 and 200? Well, we did temporarily break below the 200, which is quite bearish, but then we got some very good news involving the talks about the Indian Gigafactory that came out on Thursday, which helped Tesla get right back into this zone. And if you look at today, it was kind of stuck between these resistance levels again today. But it wasn't as strong as before. It actually got a little bit above the 50 before coming back down. So I'm not as worried about these specifically right now. We are still kind of stuck between them, but our range for the day, for the most part, has been stuck between them right now. So I'm not as worried about this. I'm more focused on the current levels to see if we could continue to break out. I want to see Tesla continue to hold. So far it's looking quite nice. Let's see if we could get to 262.5. Let's see if we could break out on Tesla. It really wants to. We're just going to watch this very carefully. All right. So please remain calm, cool, and collected. And don't forget that so far the market is holding up quite nicely. Tesla's also now trying to follow SPY and the market. It's trying very hard. It would have done much better if it wasn't for the negative news. And then for Apple, we saw lots of buyers trying to get these deals, buying around 185. Lots of institutions as well, as Apple's getting very tight. I don't see Apple making a big move, but the fact that Apple's holding up is good for the markets. At least it's not sinking down to slow the markets down. And I also want to add that a lot of these institutions are going to be after the dividends from Apple. So they are incentivized to buy around 185. It's trying to hold it nicely. That's positive for the markets. Apple is not crashing or sinking. It basically gapped down and it's just trading sideways. So that's good for the markets too. So far, things are quite decent. Looking at the dollar, for example, real quick, the dollar is down. The 10-year treasury yield is dropping. Those are bullish signals. Market is liking it, and we will see if this continues. All right. So thank you for listening. Do what you have to do. Remain calm, cool, and collected. I'll see you guys in the next one. Tesla and the market to the moon as the long term is still incredibly bright. And peace out.